Some quick housekeeping. If you haven't been on a webinar with us before, we do have a Q&A at the end of the webinar, but you can submit questions at any time during the webinar. There is a box to enter those questions in the GoToWebinar panel on your screen. And additionally, the slides, we always get asked if the slides will be available, and they will be following the webinar. We'll send out an email, and additionally, they are currently available in the handout section of the GoToWebinar panel. Now, a little bit about Sageworks, if you aren't familiar with us. For the past 17 years, we have served the accounting market with our ProfitSense platform. And 2 years ago, we expanded by introducing a product specifically for business valuation professionals, the Sageworks Valuation solution. Now, at Sageworks, our approach to technology is both the product itself, but we also strive to support those products with really excellent customer service. We want to make sure that our customers are getting the best use of our products once they're implemented. Recently, we won an award from CPA Practice Advisor for Technology Innovation. And as I mentioned, our history has, we've served primarily the accounting market, but in the past 10 years, we've also begun building software to serve banks. Now, we also include a legal statement in all of our webinars, and you'll have a copy of this in the slides to read at your convenience. But to summarize, this presentation will contain forward-looking statements relative to publicly available data, industry data, but of course, we can't predict the future, and these statements are not intended to advise a specific course of action. Our presenter today is Jeff Phillips. He's the CEO of Accountingfly, the career center to the accounting profession. Previously, Jeff was with Monster.com, where he advised Fortune 500 companies such as H&R Block, Walmart, and Exxon how to use internet marketing to hire better candidates at a lower cost. For the past 2 years, Jeff has been named as one of the 100 most influential people by Accounting Today for his work in helping level the playing field so that all employers have a chance to hire great accounting talent. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Jeff.
All right, thanks, Elise. I'm going to wait for you to share that with me, and then I can put this into presentation mode. Give me 1 second. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jeff Phillips. And Elise, before I ramble on for an hour, can you confirm that you can hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you great.
Okay, fantastic. And I know you'll be back for different polling questions. I think there's 4 polling questions in today's session, as well as I encourage everybody to ask Q&A. We're going to definitely leave time for that. So I'm calling in from Pensacola, Florida, my hometown, and I'm fighting a cold, so I apologize the way I sound. Maybe you would notice if I hadn't brought it up, but that's where I'm at right now. So we are going to talk about building great teams and how things have changed in the talent market so that you can build an excellent advisory services team. I imagine that a lot of you are, probably in some kind of a CPA firm that's looking to add those above-the-line services that are so important to profitability. That would be my guess, but I'm actually going to ask a polling question in a moment to understand a little bit about where you're at. And so to that end, let's go ahead and get started, and thank you for your time. Elise has already given you a little background about me. I will say that this photograph you're looking at is my favorite possession in my life. This is the moment my older 2 children met my our baby Mally, about 1.5 years ago, and it's a priceless look. So these little people are the reason why I get up and go to work every day and deal with a lot of the problems that I think our industry is dealing with, especially around talent, because it can be a challenge right now. So, all right, we've got our first polling question. This is going to help us align the conversation. Elise, take it away.
All right, so that poll question has been launched, so everybody should be able to select an answer. And I'll leave this open here. There we go. All right, and I'll leave this open here for about 30 seconds or so to give everybody a chance to answer. Awesome,
and here's what we're going for here, and thanks for answering. a lot of advisory services businesses may not be looking to hire CPAs, and I think I was trying to get a sense of, what is your primary hiring need? Is it non-CPA financial professionals, outsourced CFOs, finance people, or are you a firm? You're inside a firm looking to hire CPAs, or maybe you're inside a corporation that needs to hire one or the other. So thanks for taking a few minutes to answer and submit your question.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the question. It looks like pretty much everybody's had a chance to answer. And Jeff, we're back to you.
Great. And do you have the answers? Can you comment on the response rate?
Yeah, we're a pretty 50-50 split, 48% CPA and 52 non-CPA.
Okay. So thanks everybody for answering the questions. So I think we can generalize that everyone on the call is probably hiring either a CPA or some kind of business finance professional. And so we're just going to use the term accountant for the meeting. But I think even if you're off the spectrum and you're not hiring accountants, what I'm going to be talking about today is data that proves what accountants are looking for in their next employer. And it's important for you to know what that is, because without making certain changes, you're going to be stuck. Or maybe you already are stuck. And most of the conversations I have with CPA firms, advisory firms, consulting businesses is pretty similar. And it goes a little bit like, we're having a hard time hiring. And we see that. Accountingfly is a business that's been around for about 4 years, and our whole operation is using technology to source and screen and match candidates to accounting employers. And I have to tell you, it's not easy. When we launched our job board, we felt like we were doing the right things to get CPAs to the job board. And this was a few years back, but we were not succeeding. We were not getting the right folks into the job board to apply to the clients. And it was that first time that we really felt the pain that our clients felt of, okay, why am I not getting applicants that have a CPA or some kind of pedigreed financial background or CFA? And so, we evolved. We started offering annual recruiting contracts that rolled in like employment branding, videos about the employer, and writing content for the employer. And that really started to move the needle for us. And we added this third layer of placements. We have a team of headhunters on our staff because so many of our employers can't handle the workload of just recruiting the applicants. So it's been a very big learning curve, and I tell you that really to explain that we've been in the crosshairs of this issue of it's hard to hire accountants for 4 years. Recently, we acquired the website Going Concern, which has been really interesting for us because it gives us a peek into the minds of the millennial CPAs. It's the biggest database of millennial CPAs anywhere. On a given month, we're over 110,000 millennial CPAs are reading Going Concern between 2 and 8 times. And we survey them, and a lot of what we've learned in those surveys I'm going to share with you today. But I'll tell you that the biggest learning for us is that the race for financial talent is over, and the talent won. And that's a saying that we have around here because we oftentimes coach partners inside advisory businesses, audit recruiters, whether it's in a firm or at a company, and CPA firms. And we really try to paint this picture that I want to paint for you, which is we have to accept that the way you came up, if you're a boomer or a Gen Xer like me, is different than the way the millennials are going to want to work inside your organization. And the other part of this is that you don't really have a choice in the matter. And I speak to managing partners on a weekly basis, and I get a lot of eye rolls. And I'm not sitting here saying that well, what I am saying is that it's the race is over and the talent won. So either get on board with how they want to work or accept the fact that they're not going to come to your organization. And it's tough love, but it's the truth. So let's talk about what they're looking for and what that means and how it can help you. I think it's helpful to know what this industry looks like, especially if you're recruiting CPAs. So overall, Bureau and labor statistics tell us that there's only about 1 million accountants in the United States, and 664,000 are CPAs. That actually feels low to me. I was surprised at what a low number that was. And many of you may know the story. I mean, the Big Four hire a third of the grads every year, roughly 20,000, maybe a little bit more. And pretty much to a man, the graduates that go into the Big Four fully intend to get out of public accounting and advisory and go into private as soon as they get out. We're actually seeing that is increasing, and I'm going to speak to why that is. And they never come back. You know, that will always be the case, but you know, certainly if we understand what this audience is looking for in an employer, then advisory firms and public accounting firms, we can make them more appealing to them. And we are living proof that that's possible. So owning going concern, we've learned how to take the Big Four CPA and get them interested in mid-market accounting firms or consulting firms, and using content, using our technology to make those connections. So I can tell you that it is possible. One thing we've learned from our partner Boomer Consulting is that they did a survey, a retention survey inside public accounting firms. The public accounting firms sent off about 500 surveys that were responded, and those surveys were sent to people that, you know, in the last 4 years left a job inside a public accounting firm. And what they found was that, you know, 9 out of 10 of the people that left a job inside a firm, they did not make a lateral move to another firm. They went to private. Okay. And I don't know if that shocks you or not, but it does concern me. That feels very high. And the survey went on and asked more questions about why they left. My assumption always was, you know, they're leaving for the 15 to 20% pay bump that a senior associate or a manager might get at a company. Well, 7 out of 10 of those polled listed the primary reason is not having work-life balance. Right? So what does that tell us, and how can you change? I mean, professional services work is what it is. It's not like we can't serve our clients. And on the other hand, the people that want to stay in the industry want you to give them more work-life balance. So there is some definite tension there. But I think we've got some ideas and some best practices that can help you build that team. Okay? And as we started speaking to these accountants and asking them what that meant, what does work-life balance mean, this word flexibility really came out more than anything else. So Jacqueline here is a staff associate at EY. And you know, I think the perception is the Big Four is a sweatshop. You know, you're working a lot of hours, but Jacqueline decided to go with EY because they were making gestures and offers towards her to give her a lot of flexibility. And what flexibility means to Jacqueline is an agreement that she will get her work done and get it done extremely well, but that she isn't going to be held to the FaceTime hours that existed in the past. All right? It doesn't mean she doesn't have to come to work. She's completely held accountable for production. It just, there isn't a set schedule or there isn't a commitment to having to do FaceTime. And I think of those of you who are building advisory teams, because I think that's a really attractive place for accountants to land, is being inside a business and really acting as a consultant to other businesses. You know, obviously it's a highly profitable type of consulting business. And so I think with you, you know, we're going to talk in a minute about how to sell that to CPAs, but you know, you have to have a product to sell before you can market it. And that's why I'm encouraging you to stop and think seriously about flexibility and what that's going to look like in your organization. Because my opinion is that you're not going to hire the good ones if you aren't going in that direction. Okay. So people like Jacqueline, we dug deeper and asked them what they were looking for in their next job. And you know what's interesting is while advisory services is very appealing, I think for interesting work, when we interviewed millennial CPAs and asked them what was the #1 factor in their next job, the work wasn't listed. It wasn't in the top 4 answers. But it was work-life balance, so we've heard that before, and it was mission, vision, and culture. So it's almost like it speaks to, it doesn't even really matter kind of what field you're necessarily in if you are not offering a flexible workplace and you don't have a clear mission and there's no culture or a vision, you know, then what that tells me is that 90% of CPAs, millennial CPAs, are saying, you know, they're out. Now, we've written a white paper on how professional services firms can encourage work-life balance and how they can create a mission and build culture. I'm happy to share that with the group. You can just email me after the presentations, jeff@accountingfly.com. I'm happy to share that. But so if this is what it takes to build a great team, then there's some decisions, you know, I'm gonna push to you to make today, to start thinking about, so that you can change your organization and position your organization to get the best talent, to build the best team. Okay. So speaking of flexibility, there was a very interesting thing that happened in 2016. We had a few clients who were either advisory services businesses or traditional firms. Well, they were CPA firms, but something they had in common was they were trying to hire remote, you know, work anywhere accountants. And when those companies posted a job on Accountingfly for a remote, you know, work from home job, those jobs got 8 times more applicants than traditional accounting jobs. 8 times. You know, I think what that means, #1 is we're all lucky. I mean, with the cloud, we can have distributed teams in advisory services or in accounting firms. Hopefully you are in the cloud and your team can work from anywhere, but because of this shift, the talent is telling us, hey, this is what we want. We want a career in finance or accounting, but we want to do it. We want to do it from home, or we want to do it without in a traditional work environment. So if you are struggling hiring, this is an important number to really think about. That number of 8 times more applicants. I can tell you that Accountingfly probably went through 900 or 1,000 jobs last year. Those that were remote, we filled 95% of them, compared to probably 30% of the others, because it was just, there was so much demand for it. So it's a wake-up call. It really is. Now, let me make one last statement. I've used that word millennial a couple of times. Some of you are millennials. I could care less. I'm not a generation. I'm not an expert in the differences between generations. What I am here to tell you is it's really more about, is your company a great place to work, or is it a lousy place to work? Now, the preferences of what makes a great place to work have changed, and yeah, millennials had something to do with it. But this is your business or your department, and it's up to you if you're going to make it somewhere that any generation wants to work. Let's take a break real quick, because then I'm going to get into the questions that, you know, the decisions that you can make to build a progressive employer and build a great team. But Elise, let's bring you in here and let's ask the second polling question, please.
All right, so we have launched that poll question there. So I'll just leave this open for maybe about 30 more seconds so everybody have a chance to get their answers in.
Thank you very much, Elise. I'll just be on standby here and wait for you to close it out.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that poll question now. And we're back to you, Jeff.
Great, thank you. So I want to take a step back. Now that I've given you some data and trends to think about building a team, I want to kind of use a concept. If you ever to make a point. If you've ever heard Seth Godin, he's an amazing blogger and author that helps entrepreneurs. It really helps boil down complex things and makes them very simple. And so he has this analogy that he uses called the blank slate. And the story was basically like this. There was an architect who was a great architect in a city and did a lot of the best homes in the city. And over time, he had acquired some wealth and bought a beautiful piece of empty land on the water. And there came a time where he had enough money to design the house that would sit on that piece of land. And he realized that since he was doing it for himself, it was incredibly difficult. He was dealing with a blank slate, and he realized that the decisions that he made today would have an impact would have a permanent impact. And so it was fairly hard for the architect to design his own house because you realize the decisions that you make have such a big impact on the course of time. And so all of us have this blank slate. I've started a company, and there was definitely a lot of decisions that we made at the beginning that some have turned out to be very good, and some have turned out to be really challenging. But when you think about your blank slate as building in terms of building a team and building that system that supports you in a business, there are decisions that you need to make, and many of you are already well along the lines in your career or your team. But I want to suspend that reality for a moment and pretend that you're designing your team all over again, and encourage you to make 5 decisions that you can make today to build a world-class financial team. All right. So the first one is decide the HR policies that are going to drive your culture. And these are progressive policies. But these are policies that reflect the preferences of the workplace. And I'm just going to call a couple out, and I welcome your questions, or if you want to challenge these. Number one is, well, I would say number one is consider, building a remote team. That's not even on here, but we spent some time on that a minute ago. But number two is encourage vacations. What that means from you is, as the leader of the team, is you need to go on vacations yourself, and you need to, brag about the fact that you're on vacations. And that means doing things like sending pictures back to the team, putting pictures of your vacation on social media and sharing it with your team back home. A lot of companies that we respect have switched to an unlimited PTO model. I mean, the financial professionals you're hiring can be trusted to get the work done and can manage their own vacation schedule without having to have a set number of days. One of our big firm clients in the West Coast just made this switch, and it has made a really tremendous impact on the team feeling empowered. I would encourage you to review your maternity policies and know that the trend is extending maternity and offering paternity. So Deloitte just came out with a life event policy, so that if you had something like the birth of a child, no matter if you were a man or a woman, that you were offered an extended leave of absence. And what's funny is I usually share these things with managing partners of accounting firms or directors of departments, and they kind of roll their eyes and say, that wouldn't work here. And I understand that, but the counter argument is, this is your competition. This is what your competition is doing to recruit people. And when we're in a day when in the CPA industry, we have a 20% annual attrition, meaning 20% of CPAs leave their employer in public accounting right now. So you got to rehire the 20% plus grow. So what drives your culture? The result of decisions like this, they reduce retention. They may cost you money and time and work, but they will keep people in an organization longer. I think there's another one that I wanted to make a point about, is treat everyone's schedule differently. This is not comfortable, but everybody has a different life situation. And a flexible work environment means everybody has a different situation, and when they speak to their manager, they can be trusted to get their work done and be able to be in the office when needed, but live their life, deal with the things that they need to deal with without feeling like they're a bad team member. I would invest in training too. No matter what industry you're in, if you don't have the team in-house to do training, then outsource it. Train them so that they become a process-driven professional inside your team, under your supervision, but hitting hitting what you need them to do. One of the changes that will happen is you'll start to attract more people, and if you happen to go remote, I would definitely encourage you to understand that by going remote, you're going to attract more people, and remote is not for everybody. So some people can't handle it. You need to be prepared to fire fast. You coach them out carefully. All right. So let's talk about building a team now. Now that you have the product to sell, and now that you understand what you're dealing with, how do you get people in there? Well, it all starts with what we call the 5 questions. And I would encourage you to draft some answers to these questions, because what you're going to do with these questions is going to be the building blocks of every recruitment activity that you do to hire a CPA or a financial professional. And it starts with why work in our size firm. If you're small, you're going to have to explain why it's an advantage to work in a small firm. That's usually things like flexibility and the ability to go up the ladder faster and rise to partner faster, work-life balance. Your values, that's number 2. What does our organization stand for? And for those of you who are in a corporate environment and you're in a team, you should be doing the same thing. Your team has a set of values. It stands for something under your leadership. What is it? What are those values? Because those values are going to appeal to certain people and repel others that you don't want involved. Why should you trust your career to our organization? What is your future like if you're effective? What we've learned from millennials is they want a clear vision of what's going to happen if they give you their best effort over time. Paint that picture for them. And what is unique about our culture? So why is this important? Well, recruiting is marketing. And in order to be a good marketer, you've got to have a template of words and a vision that you incorporate into all of your marketing materials. And the same thing is true with recruiting. So the 5 questions are the building blocks of attracting the best people. And those 5 questions need to be present in every job posting that you write. They need to be present in your own talk track, in your interview, phone interviews and in-person interviews. You need to lead with this. It needs to be on your website that a CPA will look at at 3 a.m. when they just found out they're relocating to your city. And it needs to be in your brochures. You know, I think 5 years ago, we all recruited CPAs with job boards, and we call it post and pray, and that no longer works. You can't find a CPA on a job board like Monster or Career Builder, and you've got to invest in telling a story that connects with people. All right, let's keep going. Now that you've got your 5 questions answered, we want you to recruit every single day. You're probably always thinking about growing that business. Well, if you sign up a new project, you're going to have it staffed. And so, part of a leader's job is really selling every day and recruiting every day. Build a simple employee referral program. I can tell you that, last time I checked, the going rate for a CPA, like a senior, through an employee referral program would be about $6,000. A manager would be $9,000 or $10,000. You'd happily pay that versus paying a headhunter fee, I would imagine. Have a formal program in place. Post it in the break room, and remind the team once a month that that's happening. Use the job boards to build a pipeline. The time to hire somebody isn't when the old person just quit. At 20% attrition, people are going to quit. You have to bank on it, and so get ahead of that by recruiting all the time. That was one of our lessons that we learned in building Accountingfly, was that we sell a job posting that's up all year round so that you can always be getting talent. I'm going to talk about content in a second, but content is powerful in your recruiting financial professionals. Always be willing to interview great talent. And I would take it a step further and say always be willing to hire the right people. In the CPA industry, the AI CPA interviewed or surveyed about 10,000 firms. They call it the issues survey, and asked them, what is the biggest factor that is threatening the future of your firm? And this past year, whether you were a 2-person shop or you were Deloitte, the #1 issue was finding great talent. And if that's the case, you may not be able to make a hire as soon as you sign that project unless you're prepared. And the struggle is, if you sign a project, so now your business has grown, but you didn't staff, your existing team is going to burn out. And I think that's one of the reasons we're having the highest attrition in 10 years, is we've got a lot of burnt out accounting teams. So lastly here is, we've got a lot of boomerangs in the industry as well. People might leave public accounting, go to private, and they find that doesn't work for them, so they go back to public accounting. Keep in touch with your alumni and make sure that they know you're out there, that you're growing, that you're always hiring. Keep that bridge. Keep that bridge with your alumni. It's a great source of talent. Okay. All right, Elise. How about our 3rd polling question? I'll take a quick break.
All right, so that poll question is live, so feel free to go ahead and get your answers in for that. I'll leave that open for about 30 seconds.
And Elise, when you end that poll, will you publish the results? I think I'd like to see it. I'm sure everybody else would too.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, we'll leave the poll open for maybe about 10 more seconds here so everybody can get their answers in, and then we'll go ahead and publish it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll here and share the results. And Jeff, you probably can't see them on your screen, so I'll let you know. We have 45% said they don't offer advisory, 27% said their time is split, 11% said yes, 100% dedicated, and 18% are unsure.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
All right,
Okay,
we're back.
awesome, thank you. And please add questions to the question panel. Lisa's going to read questions. I want to make sure we're able to help you in your your individual situation with hiring. I think we can probably help just about everybody on the call with just some advice and answers. Okay, so 2 more decisions that we encourage you to make. And just to recap here, I mean, make some decisions around your HR policies to get progressive. Formulate a recruitment brand so that everything you publish in recruitment has the answers to those 5 questions. Commit to recruiting all the time. I mean, the more you do this, the better the team you're going to have supporting you. And then lastly, or fourthly, is use content. So one of the stories from our background is when we built this job board and no one showed up, we thought to ourselves, well, no wonder CPA firms and corporate accounting departments are having so much trouble hiring accountants. They're not showing up to the job boards. What do we do now? And one of the things that we learned was from a study about recruitment marketing. And the study went something like this. If a senior professional candidate, okay, like a CPA, sees a piece of content with your name on it, then that person is 300% more likely to apply to a job with your name on it. And what that means in normal talk is passive candidates that aren't thinking about applying to a job. If you get in front of them with content, you've increased their likelihood of applying to a job that you have by 300%. Okay, so practical application. We started shooting videos about accounting firms. At first they were very rough, but they're so inexpensive to make, really, on the grand scheme of things. And I'm not talking about marketing videos that your ad agency makes. I'm talking about asking people, why do you like working here? How about asking them the 5 questions? As a high performer, what do you think your future looks like here? Describe the culture. Is the work interesting? How do you achieve work-life balance? So we just started building these videos and putting them on YouTube, and then we got a little more sophisticated, started buying advertising on social media sites, and then putting them in the Accountingfly profiles. And then we started putting them on Going Concern. And a funny thing happened. We started getting the high caliber CPA applicants that we were hoping for. And so the study pointed us in the right direction, and so I want to point you in the right direction. Part of your marketing budget should be spent on recruiting, because building a quality team is just so much more in 2017 than posting and praying. One of my favorite examples was a CPA partner who just started a blog. And he wrote a blog once a week, and it was coaching senior associates and managers on their career advice. And he built up a killer mailing list of CPAs in Los Angeles, and he used that list to make all of his hires. They knew him, they had a relationship with him from reading his blog, and he had built quite a following because he wrote honest, authentic, helpful content. So do yourself a favor and outsource this if you don't have time to do it in-house, or have your marketing department commit to marketing content. And lastly, have a process. So if you are in a big corporate accounting department, your company probably has an applicant tracking system. And so this really doesn't apply to you, but for those of you who are in a firm, you really need to have some kind of tool to manage your applicants. And there's a lot of them on the market. We offer one included in our subscriptions as well. But essentially, you want to get your applicants out of your email and into a database that you can communicate with candidates, and you can screen candidates, rank them, share them, and most importantly, hang on to them if you don't hire them today. You can build a bench of candidates for the future. An applicant tracking system allows you to do that. Makes you HR compliant as well if you're ever audited. This was our first product that we built because we saw such a need in the public accounting world for, putting automation in recruitment. So have a process so that you can respond fast. And that's my last piece of advice. If you get a quality applicant, you have to respond the same day. It's non-negotiable. We can tell you horror stories of excellent CPAs applying to mid-market firms, and the firms waited 2 or 3 days, and the CPA was off the market. So time is utterly critical in how we make this happen. Systems like an applicant tracking system give you the peace of mind to know that you're not going to miss a good candidate, and you're not going to move quickly. Okay, so one thing I wanted to say about, for those of you who are in advisory firms or corporate finance departments is also building a great team might not mean making a full-time hire. In a time when full-time hires is very difficult, consider hiring high-caliber ex-Big Four CPAs on project-based engagements. So that's something that we offer. If you're interested, you can reach out to me. But we can backfill a team of CPAs to fill a project. So you can close a project, and you certainly don't have to worry about staffing it. We feel like that might be the future here because we're all in such a tough time making these hires. And so I wanted to throw that out there as well. And I think in wrapping up, it's important to acknowledge that times have changed. And none of us really get comfortable with change. And I think professional services firms might even adapt it a little bit later than the others. But it's here. And we have to deal with it. So don't solve new problems with old solutions. If you want to recruit the best and have a team that can execute your vision, you're going to have to change the way the policies that attract people in the first place. You're going to have to give them a product to sell. And you're going to have to articulate very clearly what it is about your business that is attractive to the right people. And you're going to have to repeat that message every day, all year. And if you add content, content to help support that story, you'll increase your results tremendously. And finally, if you add a process, we all have a CRM for our sales. Well, we need a CRM for our teams too. So if you have a process, you can respond fast, make quicker decisions as a team, and stay compliant, and build a bench, okay, that will ultimately reduce your need to backfill in an emergency and crisis hire. Then you've really set up the right foundation for putting together an incredible financial operations team. So with that said, I believe, Elise, we have one final question, and then I surely hope we have some Q&A because I would love to jump into that.
All right, yep, the poll question is live, so if everyone wants to just take some time to fill that out. And yes, Jeff, we have had a few questions come in, so we'll do a quick wrap-up here, and then we'll open up for Q&A. So if anybody has any questions, there is still time to submit those into the questions box.
Oh, that's great. I'll leave my contact information at the end here, too, if anybody wants to connect on social media or just send me an email. We are fascinated by this problem of hiring CPAs and non-CPA accountants. And I wouldn't say that we have completely solved it, but I also would say I think we're the best bet in the marketplace right now for it. But it's a challenge, I'll tell you what.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close that poll question now.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Great presentation. And so at this point, I'm going to turn things over to my colleague Chad, and he's just going to walk us through just a little bit of information about Sageworks and how we help out accountants before we get to the questions at the end here, the Q&A at the end.
Yeah, thanks so much. And Jeff, thanks for that. It was a great presentation. It really goes hand in hand with A lot of the problems we're seeing in today's market with firms needing and wanting to grow their advisory services and really being able to staff that, so some really great content. I just wanted to touch on a few points in a few minutes here, so I appreciate you guys letting me join. As you can see on the slide, earlier this year, we collaborated with about 16 of the top thought leaders in the accounting industry, and we published an ebook gathering insights and practice advice on how to grow your firm of trusted advisors. So the content and the focus of this book it's really centered around helping accountants become trusted business advisors, which right now, there's a lot of industry surveys showing as the #1 demand from their business clients. So you can see some of the strategic points here, but for anybody who is interested, there is a digital download available for free, as you can see on the slide and on our website. And if you want to purchase it in paperback, there is a copy on Amazon there as well. Now, we do offer 2 different products here. The first one you see is going to be our Sageworks Valuation solution. This is going to provide a valuation solution, serving valuation professionals here in the industry. So you have the opportunity looking at, the ability to save time while following multiple approaches. We can look at reducing, human error through consistent process and analysis. You have the ability to access valuations and client documents quickly, to provide high-quality services. And then we also have the opportunity to create customized reports faster to increase the realization rates at your firm here. Our flagship product you guys may be aware of is our ProfitSense platform. So ProfitSense is the financial analysis software that provides really both advisory and audit solutions for accounting firms. As you can see, just having the ability for benefits to differentiate your firm with industry-specific KPIs, benchmarking KPIs there to provide proactive advice. Having the ability to acquire clients with easy-to-understand graphs, metrics, and narrative reporting. Really generating actionable financial insights that can help your clients succeed, and having the ability to streamline your audits and reviews with automated calculations and documentation. Something here we pride ourselves in is really customer service, so providing you insight, being a technology partner with you guys, very similar to what Jeff was saying. We want to work with you and not to provide you with a piece of accounting software. We want to be able to help you learn and grow as we do so in this accounting space. Now, in regards to providing advisory services, I really want to touch on 3 top reasons that small business owners select their CPA. I think the first 2 reasons come as no big surprise, but really people aren't as familiar with the 3rd reason. So, #1, CPAs are chosen for their expertise and for their knowledge in the field of accounting. Running a business can be a very complex endeavor, and most business owners are not wired to understand the aspects of the financials behind running that business. #2, they're chosen for their responsiveness, right? Business owners want to know that they're being heard and that someone has their back in their time of need. Now, in my time here, I've spoken with thousands of accountants, and I can tell you I've yet to meet one accountant that's not willing to do whatever their clients ask of them. Most accountants think this is the one thing that differentiates their practice from all others, but the reality is that everyone is willing to provide reactive services based on their clients' needs, which brings us to point 3. CPAs are chosen because of their proactive strategic advice that they offer. 99% of accountants are willing and able to provide reactive services, but the firms that are providing proactive services for their business clients are the ones that will set themselves apart from their competition. The ones that are willing to go above and beyond for their clients are the ones that will have an easier time cross-selling their services to existing clients while also maintaining a high retention rate as well. Now, when we look at this, while gaining new clients is always a common goal, studies show it's 11 times more expensive to bring a new client on board than it is to work with an existing client, so there's a lot of opportunity there to expand your advisory services within the house. So what I look at here is, would you rather be a firm that new clients seek out because of the services you provide, or do you want to be the firm that maybe loses top clients to other firms because you simply weren't in touch with what they really want and what they really need? As you can see here, in addition to added advisory services, as 10 million baby boomer businesses come up for sale, exit planning and business valuations are a significant revenue opportunity for you as well in adding those services. So just to recap here, we have our 2 products, ProfitSense and Sageworks. We appreciate, the time and having our spiel here as well, Jeff. So anybody who's interested, I think, at least does have a poll question on our end. But I appreciate you guys. Thanks for the time, and I hope all goes well.
That poll question is now live. So we'd really appreciate it if you take a second to answer. And the question there is, how would you like to learn how firms are leveraging Profit Sense or Sageworks Valuation on a brief call? And if you'd like a call, or maybe sometime in the future we could talk, or if you're good to go. Jeff had some great information today, so it's a lot to process. And I'll leave the poll open for another 15 seconds or so everybody has a chance to answer. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close that poll now. And at this point, we'll do some Q&A. So let me just check out the questions here, Jeff, that we've gotten in, because we have gotten a few. All right, so one question we have here is they're asking if you could expand a little bit on what you mean when you say to fire fast and to coach out carefully.
Well, the context for that was that if you choose to hire remote, if that's an option for you, there's so much demand for remote that you're going to get a lot of applicants. It's not going to be hard to hire, but it's not for everybody. And meaning not everybody is suited and is self-motivated enough to be a remote team player. So the challenge for the business is changing some processes. But whether you go remote or not, the old adage is to be careful in who you hire and get better at screening, use things like employee assessments, but hire slow and fire fast. And the principle there is, for remote work, it's like you're going to have to be willing to move, to fire people if they're not holding their weight, if they're not carrying their weight. And you're going to have systems to make sure that you can have visibility to see if people are carrying their weight or not on a weekly basis. And if they're not, you're going to have to let them go. The good news is there's a lot of demand for remote positions, so you can hire again. But in principle, it's just a way of being deliberate about who you hire and not rush to hiring. But if somebody's not a fit, fire fast. And so many people, delay that decision to to fire someone. But usually when you do, how many times have you done it and some other team members come up to you and say, I'm really glad you did that.
Excellent, excellent. And we had another question about the working remotely. I think that's a big topic of interest. And it was, do you recommend for these remote workers, do you recommend paying hourly or a salary for those guys?
I would treat this as a full-time position, a salaried position with very clear expectations of what needs to be accomplished. I will tell you there's some interesting progressive accounting firms. If you know the guy Jason Blummer CPAs, he created the Thrival Network. They don't pay on salary; they pay on production. So, as a virtual bookkeeper, their virtual bookkeepers get paid as a percentage of the revenue they're supporting. But my recommendation would be to treat them as you would your full-time team.
Got it. Thank you. That's definitely, I think, a tricky topic for a lot of us. So I think just to be mindful of time here, we're getting to the end. I think that'll cover it. Thank you so much, Jeff. It was a great presentation. We really appreciate you sharing that with us today.
Well, I appreciate Sageworks for having me, and appreciate working with you guys and your fantastic product. And thanks to the audience for the great questions and for hearing us out.
Excellent. Well, everybody have a great day, and thank you so much for joining. And contact information is here on the screen. So if you have any other questions that come up later for Jeff or us at Sageworks, please feel free to shoot us an email.
Bye for now. Thank you.